نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي ربي يسر ولا تؤسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح ربي زدني علما ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار يا أول الأولين يا آخر الآخرين يا ذا القوة المتين يا رحم المساكين يا أرحم الراحمين حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل اللهم إنا نجعلك في نحورهم ونعوذ بك من شرورهم اللهم منزل الكتاب سريع الحساب اهزم الأحزاب اللهم اهزمهم وزلزلهم اللهم إنا نجعلك في نحورهم ونعوذ بك من شرورهم Amin Ya Arhamar Rahimin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, Alhamdulillah, by the grace and tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today we are going to talk about ayah number 200. This is the last ayah of Surah Al Imran, the third surah of the Quran. So in this ayah, we'll go over the meaning, recitation of the meaning and the tafsir after. So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون.
So, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Ya is a harfin that we used to call somebody like in English we say, oh, you, or so in Arabic the word ya is to call somebody. So ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, o you who believe. So who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calling? Me and you. O you who believe, isbiru. Isbiru is a command to say have sabr, do sabr, right? Engage in sabr. Right, and so be steadfast. And there are a lot of sabr, like all the words actually in this ayah. The main four things that I mentioned, all four are very. There's a lot of depth in them, and we'll go over that. So, but sabr, let's keep it sabr for now. To be steadfast, to be patient, to be perseverant, to remain steadfast on something. So, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu isbiru, be steadfast, have sabr, wasabiru, and excel in patience, or bring others to patience, right? Like encourage each other to be patient, or another meaning is to excel in patience, right? So wasabiru warabitu, and be constant. Rabata means to tie something, right? And it's used for tying horses, for example, also used for tying the nafs, right? So there's a lot of tying in here. Warabitu, and it might seem very similar to sabr, like some words, they're kind of synonyms, but when synonyms come together, then they have a different meaning. Like the difference in the meaning is also highlighted, right? So they're similar, very similar in meaning, and that becomes really important to understand the depth of those meanings. So inshallah, we'll cover that. So isbiru wa sabiru wa rabitu, and tie yourself, be constant. Wattaqullah, and have the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is taqwa? Taqwa again is the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fear meaning like fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much, but that fear is different from any other fear. The fear that brings us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fear that makes us run towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything else we fear, we run away from it. But taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the fear that we run towards Him. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. لَعَلَّكُمْ, so that all of you, kum is for all of you, so that all of you may tuflihun, may gain falah. And what is falah? Success, true success, right? And falah in Arabic is the farmer. And what does the farmer do? It's the kind of success that has a lot of hard work has gone into it. A lot of there has been a time period that has gone. A success for a farmer doesn't just come. It's not just like, okay, I invested in this share and then today and then tomorrow it just the stock market boomed and then I just made quick money. It's not like that. The success of a farmer is something that for a long time it's unseen. Things are happening under the ground. There's a lot of tilling of the ground first. There's a lot of things that are going on, right? So falah is, and we'll go over a little bit more in detail also. So falah is that kind of a success, like a farmer has a success, a success that has a lot of effort and that requires time and effort, basically, right? So la'allakum tuflihun, so that you may be successful. So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sabiru wa sabiru wa rabitu wattaqullaha la'allakum tuflihun. O you who believe, be patient, be steadfast, and excel in patience, and be constant, right? Stand on guard, be constant, and be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that you may be successful. So this ayah, basically, now the believers are being addressed again, and like we've learned before, whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses us with Ya ayyuhalladina amanu, like the people before us, they used to say that it just makes me like feel special. It makes me feel like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to me, like it's thinking about individually, like myself. Like, ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to me. The creator of the heavens and the earth is talking to me directly, and he's addressing me directly. So it's like a believer, kind of, it's a matter of honor, and it's also a matter of a lot of attention. What is my Rabb going to tell me now? That he wants, he really want, like when we really love somebody, or somebody who really loves us, and somebody who's very powerful, and somebody who's very important, and that person is telling us something, we know that person loves us a lot. And when that person tells us something, we listen attentively. It's like, okay, what are they going to tell us? Like, they're so smart, they're so wise, they're so intelligent, and they have so much knowledge, and they really care about me. I know, I trust them, and I really care. Like, they care about me, and they have a lot of power as well, and everything. They are powerful people. They are like, maybe they're very rich, and maybe they have a lot of power, a lot of influence. So when such a person will talk to us, we will pay a lot of attention, right? And we don't pay, like, we have so many conversations with everybody, but some conversations are more important than the others, right? This is a conversation that the Rabb, my Rabb and your Rabb, the Rabb of everything that exists, is happening, is having that conversation with me and you directly. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, oh you who believe. And he calls us from our belief. Like, he doesn't call us, oh, you living in this region, or you women, men, or you women, or you people. He doesn't call us by all of that. He calls us by the virtue of our belief. That, oh, you who believe, like, there is kind of honor, there's a kind of like recognition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to, okay, you are the ones who believe, right? So he's addressing you and me with the virtue of our belief. And we know that just before this, when we read all these du'as, in this passage, the du'as that we read, and we made these du'as to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying, Ya Allah, we believe, right? We saw the heavens and the other ulul albab, the people of sound minds and sound heart. When they look at the universe, when they look at the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala around them, inside them, in their dealings with people, in the history, in the events that are happening in the world, they're like, there is no way all of this can happen and just carry on, carry on. First, there is no way this just happened. Second, there is no way that all good and all evil will just become the same. There has to be a day of judgment. There has to be a Rabb. So they believe and they say, Rabbana innana sami'na munadiyan yunadi lil imani an aminu bi rabbikum fa amanna. Ya Rabb, we heard a caller calling to the faith, so we believed. And then we had a series of du'as after that. And then, but we made our belief the focus for making those du'as, that Ya Rab, we believed, so please grant us this. Ya Rab, we believed, so we grant us this. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us what all he granted us. And he granted us so many things, and he told us all of those after that, right? But now he's addressing us back with that same belief. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, oh you who believe, right? And this ayah would kind of summarize the lessons of the whole surah, right? And we will see that in this whole surah, Ali Imran, the words sabr and taqwa came again and again. They were repeated several times in the Quran, in this surah, right? And this ayah particularly has 4 instructions. Isbiru, sabiru, rabitu, and wattaqullah, right? 4 instructions. Be patient, compete with each other in patience, guard your frontiers, be constant, and fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 4 things that will be detailed in this ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to do. And he's saying that when you do these, when you pay attention to these things, that is when you will be successful, so that you may be successful, right? So summary of the lessons of the whole surah will come in these words, basically, right? And this is the concluding part. And according to the conditions at that time, if we look at the time that this surah was revealed, we know that Uhud has already happened. We talked, there was a big passage about Battle of Uhud that we covered. And so the Muslims are in Medina. They have migrated from Mecca to Medina, right? And they have a threat all the time. They have a threat that and they are also engaging in offensive, and they also have a lot of threats, right? The Quraysh, they are trying to harm them. There are forces from within them that are trying to harm them. There are hypocrites amongst them. So they don't know who's the true and who's not, and they have a lot of danger from outside as well. So the situation is very, if we understand, the situation is not very peaceful in the sense that anything can happen anytime. Like, so things can go really down south very quickly, right? So those directions are given which are necessary for resisting the anti-Islamic forces. Right? So there are a lot of anti-Islamic forces inside and outside. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us the instructions that will help the believers, not just at that time, but any time we find ourselves in a situation, and that there will be a lot of, there's a lot of Islamophobia, or there's a lot of propaganda, or there's a lot of physical harm that is being done to the believers, or things that are happening around. So this part will tell us how do we take care of that? What do we do? Right? So those directions are given, which are necessary. And it sums up all the basic instructions in the sense that the Muslims need to discharge their obligations with respect to the Islamic Sharia and meet the challenges. And there might be difficult conditions, and not just battlefield and other things, even in our personal life, we might encounter some difficult conditions. We might find ourselves in situations that are really tough and everything. And this ayah will contain these four matters that we need to adapt and we need to strictly adhere to, and that will help us with everything else. If we take care of these four concepts, everything else will follow with them, right? So in this ayah, first of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu isbiru. Have sabr, right? So and sabr repeated the same root, sod, ba, and ra. Isbiru was sabiru. The same root is repeated in these two words. Isbiru was sabiru. Right? So the first word, sabr. What is sabr? Sabr is to hold or to tie something, to hold something, right? So for example, to hold yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands, right? And so any effort that we make to control and defend our own self against something that can be temperamentally unpleasing, right? So something that is not pleasing, but we feel, or we are being pushed towards it, or we feel that towards it, and we make an effort to control ourselves. That is sabr, right? So sabr could be against our own desires, our own nafs. Like I might want to do something. Like I went to a store and I really want to buy something. I really want, let's say, a shade of lipstick, for example, and it's like a very high-end cosmetic or something, and I really want to buy it, but I don't have money for it. But nobody's watching. If I just pick it up and put it in my purse, there's nobody to see it. I know I won't be caught. Now, can I do it? Right? At that time, if I remember, no, but this is not right. I cannot do this, right? Even if nobody else is watching, even if I will not get into any trouble with the police or the authorities or everything, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. So what made me control myself? What made me stop myself was the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects better from me, right? I'm a believer. I cannot do this, right? I know there are people who do this, but I cannot make that excuse and do that myself, right? So when I hold myself, the effort that I put, the things that is going on inside me, I want to do this, but I hold my hand back, that effort is sabr, right? So sabr is against our own desires, our own nafs. Sometimes when there is a matter of a lot of happiness, when I get really, really happy about something, let's say, and I feel like, um, dancing or doing something, being very proud of myself. Let's say there's a moment of achievement. Somebody gets a degree and they pass with, and they get, let's say, a gold medal. They were a topper in their class or something. Now that moment is a moment usually associated with pride, usually a moment, so yes, I did it, right? Or it could be I put in my effort and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted my effort and he guided me to the right thing. Now the attitude in both these cases would be completely different. Like in a situation of war, for example, right? In a war, there's always two parties. But let's say one party who wins a battle, wins a war with the other party, when they go to that land and they basically say, okay, these are the laws that will be established and everything. All these people would be given these rights and everything, and this is what will happen, and this is how we will develop this area, and this is how we will take care of everybody, and this is what will happen, and the justice will be established in this land. That is a completely different picture from somebody who goes into a land and destroys that land, goes into that land and causes loots that, and causes corruption, and there is harming people, there's killing, there is rapes, there's like all these evils that are done and everything, and a lot of destruction is made. It's a totally different attitude, right? We see today, like we could never imagine a time that we would see that people are making videos making fun of yeah, of a child who just lost his mother and he's crying, and they're making videos making fun of that child. But like, A'udhu billah, some things like you don't, we don't even have to be very religious to know what is sabr and what is the opposite of sabr. What is just like being shameless and doing anything and making fun of everybody else, or like having no concern or regard for anything or anybody else, right? There's no morals that we hold ourselves to. As a human being, we can go whichever way we want, right? We can have like, okay, there's no moral standing, I can do whatever I feel like, there's nobody stopping me, and I am what I am, and this is it, and I don't care about anybody else. Why should I care about anybody else? Or I can hold myself to a very high moral ground. Even the people that hurt me, even that people that cause me pain in my life, even the people that did not give my rights, when it comes to my when I am in a position of power, will I and I have the ability to take harm, like cause them harm or cause them hurt, am I going to be just and am I going to be merciful towards the other people because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes it? Or am I going to give, if they hurt me one time, I will hurt them 10 times because now have a power to hurt them 10 times. So what is sabr is will tell us at the time of like when we are high achievers or when we are in a position of power, how we behave, that will amount of sabr we have will kind of also dictate that. Sabr can also be at the time of hardships. Like, for example, there are some problems, there's some hurtful situations, like something troubling is going on. Then what happens is, am I going to just sit and cry and put myself into like over, like put myself into anxiety and anxiety and anxiety, more and more and more anxiety. Okay, this is so tough. I can never get out of this. There is no way out of this. I'm doomed. Like, why do problems only come to me? Why do I always have to suffer this? And why is this and why is that? Why is that? Right? I can go and do that. And there are sometimes we come across some situations or some people, A'udhu billah, may Allah Ta'ala protect us from that behavior. And whoever of us or our loved ones are in that behavior, may Allah Ta'ala take us out of that. Is that to have the victim mentality, as they say, is like that everything that happens, oh my God, this happened to me. What will I do now? I like, why is this? I'm always at the receiving end of hardships and everything, right? But if we actually look at our life, it's not always just hardships, and it's always not and it's never just hardships, and it's never just successes. There's always a mix. Some things are going good in our life, some things are not going so good in our life. Maybe our own health is okay, but maybe the health of one of our child is not okay. Maybe we have a good amount of money and education and our career is going good, but the family life is not there's some things that we could want more in family life, right? Or the family life is really good and everything, but then maybe we are struggling with finances, right? So every person will have a mix of things, right? But when we don't have sabr, when any hardship strikes, then what happens is, the first thing that happens is, oh my God, again, how will I deal with this? I cannot deal with this. I'm not able to deal with this. Oh my God, this is happening in this world, in the world. This happened now. Now what is going to happen, right? So what happens with sabr, and even like if we want to, let's say, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for that worshipping of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also we need sabr, right? Like, because in worshiping Allah subhanahu, there's some hardships that are there, right? Like there is we'll have to get up, we will have to sacrifice our sleep, we'll have to sacrifice our food sometimes. At the times of when we want to eat, we don't eat at that time, right? And we don't want to eat at the time of sahri, but we force ourselves to eat a little bit so that we can last the whole day, right? So having that to bear all those hardships even in worship, that is also sabr, right? We need sabr for that. And sabr teaches us to not to lose courage, to not to run away from anything. Sabr teaches us to persevere, to be there, to hold on firmly to truth in the face of difficulties, in the face of resistance. And that resistance could be internal, it could also be external, right? So internal, it could be like you know like and internal could be what I feel like. This is what the tendencies I have, or maybe I feel attracted to something or somebody that I should not be. Then how will I behave and everything, right? So a lot of internal things could happen. A lot of external things could be pulling us away, right? There is waswasa from shaitan, obviously, who's our enemy, who's always there to try to take the believers away from the straight path, right? And there's also things that are happening in the media, things that are happening in our own families, right? Sometimes people will say hurtful things to us. Sometimes people will say that why do you think so, why are you so silly of thinking like this and everything, right? So to hold ourselves in all of this, we will need this quality of sabr. So sabr is like a moral quality, right? And when it is absent, or if we don't strengthen it, we need to strengthen. It's not just I have sabr or I don't have sabr. Sabr, there's levels of sabr. And all these things here that we in this ayah today, there are levels to it. So each one of us, no matter where we are, we need to strengthen it more. We can strengthen it more. It's like this is a path, and just like a Sirat al-Mustaqim, right? It's a path, we keep walking on it. Similarly, sabr is something that we have, we inculcate in us, in on ourselves, and then we keep on strengthening it. And what will help us strengthen it? Reminders about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran will help us strengthen it. The Hadith will help us strengthen it. Our life experiences, and when we do something, then the next step becomes easier. Let's say there is a doctor who just finished their med school and everything, and they started practicing. The first operation that they do, the first surgery that they do, the hands might be shaking. The inside, even if like outside everything is okay, inside they might be going through nervousness. I hope everything's okay. I hope I don't mess anything up. I hope this, that. The second surgery, but once they keep doing it, once they're like, okay, no, I got this. Like even though they're feeling jittery inside, they still do it. What happens is the next surgery becomes a little bit easier, right? And the next one becomes a little bit easier. And the next one becomes a little bit easier. And then one time they have a really difficult surgery and they spend so many hours on it and everything, but they give it their best and everything. What happens after that is the next one seems much, much easier, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us opportunities for sabr in our own lives. We don't realize the things that will happen, that will we will have to display this thing to keep ourselves firm upon the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When something happens, am I going to be, oh no, what happened? And oh my God, how is it going to, or am I going to be, inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. Allahumma ajurni fi musibati wa akhluf li khayran minha. That indeed to Allah I belong, and indeed to Allah is my return. And Ya Allah, I have been touched by a hardship. Ya Rabb, replace it for me with something better. I don't want hardship, but I accept it, and I'm not going to let this hardship make me have negative thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not going to let this hardship make me stop with my duties towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not going to let this hardship put my heart into a state of hopelessness regarding what my Rabb can give me, or that my Rabb can change this situation, or that my Rabb has the power to change this situation. I'm not going to look at the situation and say, this is so hopeless, nothing can happen now. Only wrong can happen now. Only bad can happen now. I will not do like this, right? That is sabr, right? That is sabr, that I will say, no, my Rabb has everything in control. I don't have things in control, whether it is my personal life, or whether it is, if I look at the ummah, if I look at the whole community of believers, if I look at the nations, if I look at the economy, if I look at different things that are happening, which are not so pleasant around the world, then I might feel like the shaitan might want to push me that nothing can change now. It's only downhill from here and everything. But my belief and my sabr, if I have that, and if I keep on strengthening that, then even in the face of the most hard situations and things that are happening, my heart will say, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enough for me. Yes, I don't have anybody else. Yes, I might feel alone, but Allah is enough for me, right? So if we don't have this sabr, if we don't strengthen it, then we cannot do full justice to truth or to fulfill our responsibilities and duties towards the truth. It is not possible if we don't have sabr. So we all have to have some level of sabr, right? And we keep strengthening it. So sabr has three forms that the scholars have explained. So three forms based on the things in the Quran and Hadith. One is to have patience with the duties, right? What are my duties? And to have patience. Like if I have to go to a job, every day I go to a job a particular time, I have to have sabr in going to a job at a particular time. I cannot be just today I will go, if I'm supposed to start work at 8 o'clock, today I'll go at 8 o'clock, tomorrow I'll go at 11, day after tomorrow I might come at 9 and everything. It doesn't work like that, right? We have to have patience with our duties. All the things that we are supposed to do, we do it. When we are enrolled in a course, we are supposed to give exams, we give exams. We have sabr, we have to perform our duties. Similarly with the deen, we have to perform our duties, the fard that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put upon us. We have to perform them, we have to take care of them. We have to take care of our duties towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Khaliq, the creator, and we have to fulfill our duties that our Khaliq has told us, which we owe to the khulq, which is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So our duties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has directed us, that the duties that we have towards our husbands, the duties that we have towards our children, the duties that we have towards our siblings, the duties that we have towards our parents, the duties that we have towards our neighbors, the duties that we have towards the whole of Ummah, the duties that we have towards the whole mankind, the duties that we have towards the nature, towards the trees and everything, the environment, the duties that we have towards any animals or any other creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we might encounter, right? So those are all duties. To fulfill all those duties, we need patience, right? The second kind of sabr was patience against sins, right? When I have a desire to do something, but it is wrong. I can take away somebody else's right, but I will not take it because it is wrong, right? So patience meaning to stop myself from sin. And even if other people are inciting somebody to do sin, so for example, let's say peer pressure is a big deal in high schools and universities. Let's say the best friends of a person, they're all starting to take drugs and everything, and they're like, okay, it is so, like, it is fun, why are you so uptight, why don't you just like have fun with all of us and everything. So it's not just internal battle that a person is fighting, but also the external battle. Okay, these are my best friends and they're asking me to do something wrong. I don't want to do it, but I still want to stay friends with them. I want to hang out with them. I want to do, and it's at a young age especially, it's really hard because friends are a big deal at that time, right? So to protect yourself from sins at that time will require a lot of patience. Right? And the third kind of patience is patience in distress, the patience of enduring hardship, for bearing pain, avoiding excessive anxiety in any situation, right? And this can only happen, like if you said, when we internalize, and this sabr, we'll only get this sabr if we internalize that all pain and all comfort comes by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission and his decree. No matter what comfort I have in my life, what ease I have in my life, what good I have in my life, and also no matter what pain I have in my life, what struggles I have in my life, what challenges I have in my life, what hardships I have in my life, right? What I might be having people in my life who are saying something's really nice to me, that feel good to me, right? I might also have some people in my life that say nasty things to me, or that are very unsupportive, or that they just frustrate me, they make me angry, they make me upset. But all of it, no matter what it is, all of it, I have it by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not want, then even if the whole world gets together, all human beings, all jinns, all creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets together, they cannot even hurt me or you by the prick of a needle if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not willed it already. Right? And if the whole world and the whole mankind and all the jinns and all the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets together and tries to benefit me or you in some way, right? Sometimes we want to benefit each other also, we want to help each other also, but we just can't. Even if we have the means, we just can't, right? So it just doesn't work. Even if we send something, it doesn't reach the person, right? So it just can't. So even whether it's good or bad and everything in between, right? What we perceive as good or bad, right? Whether it is a pain or whether it's ease, every single thing, when we really internalize every single thing that I have in my life, my Rabb has decreed it for me especially. He wrote it for me especially. He wrote it before I was even born. It was already written in the Lawh Mahfuz, in the preserved tablet, right? It was already written before the earth was created. It was all written down, let alone me myself being created. Before the earth and the sky and the heavens, everything was created, was all written down, and it is by Allah's permission. Now it is up to me how do I handle it. When I really internalize it, then it will become easy to do sabr. That okay, my Rabb is in control. This thing that is happening is by Allah's permission. So my Rabb is always is in full control of it, right? And when I'm really, really tired, when I'm really, really frustrated about something, when something's really hard, when something is pulling at the heartstrings of at mine or your heartstrings, then what can we do? Then we remind ourselves, "Kullil kalbil mutabi anna hunaka Allah." That tell your tired heart, tell the heart that is tired, that there is Allah. Tell the heart that is tired, there is Allah. Allah is there. We are not left by ourselves in this world. And also tell that there is Allah, because in the sense that if I'm being pulled to do something wrong, that no, there is Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. I have to hold myself. I cannot just like let myself go wild, right? I'm a human being. I'm not something. I have accountability. I'm going to be asked for about what I did in my life. I can't just go wild and do whatever that takes my fancy, nor can I let anything else put me so down that I forget what the purpose of my life is, right? So that is sabr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu isbiru, have sabr, right? And sabr, sometimes people confuse sabr with sabr with like to tolerate something, right? Keep tolerating something. So sometimes what will happen is, let's say, it's also important to understand what sabr is not, right? So sometimes what will happen is, let's say a family member, a really close family member, or somebody passes away, or somebody is in a really tough situation, right? With themselves or with their children or with something, or somebody has a chronic condition, chronic health condition, or something happened, right? Or something that happened, and it's a very, very painful situation, and that person's crying, right? That person's crying. Now when we go to support that person, sometimes we say, oh, come on, why are you crying so much? Like, don't you have any sabr? Like, don't you have any sabr? Why are you crying? So that is not right, right? Sabr does not mean that we don't have any emotions. Sabr does not mean that we won't feel tired. Sabr does not mean that we sometimes we won't feel anything, or we are not supposed to, or we are supposed to become these superhuman creatures who are just always so patient and in control and everything. No, sabr means despite having all those emotions, I will not say what is displeasing to Allah. But I will have emotions. I am a human being. When Prophet ﷺ's son Ibrahim died, he cried. There were tears dipping down his eyes, and the Sahabas asked, "Ya Rasulullah, you also cry?" He said, "Yeah, I'm a human being. I cry. Yes, but I will not say what is displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the difference. I will not say, why did Allah, A'udhu Billah, why did Allah do this to me? Why did Allah take this away from me? And I deserved to have this child for a, don't I deserve to have just one son who grows up and like becomes my support when I grow old and everything? No, he said no. But he cried. But he had emotions. He had, and the sabr was to control your tongue. Yes, shaitan will play out our things that you know what, you have it the hardest, and this is that and that and that. But no, we control ourselves. So sabr does not mean that we don't cry. Yaqub alayhi salam, when Yusuf alayhi salam, his son is separated from him. Now our child, like let's say, especially the mothers would know that what happens is when your child is away from you. Let's say you got to pick your child up 10 minutes late, right? In those 10 minutes, a mother will go through like a different kind of attention and stress, like what is happening to my child in these 10 minutes, like or somebody was supposed to pick up the child at this time and they are running 10 minutes late, and there's no way to explain to the child, and you're like, okay, what is, and especially it's a young child or something, then okay, I hope my child is safe, I hope nothing happened to them. And that's 10 minutes we go um, through lots of crazy emotions at that time. Yaqub alayhi salam's son Yusuf alayhi salam has been separated from him for years. And there's one thing when somebody is passed away. One thing is, another thing is when you don't know what's happening to them. So his son is separated from him from years. He doesn't know what situation Yusuf alayhi salam is in, and he's crying and he cries and he cries and he cries and he cries so much that he becomes blind. And Yaqub alayhi salam's example is given in the Quran as Sabrun Jameel, that he had beautiful sabr, right? He had sabr. So even in those moments of crying and everything, he never gave up hope. Even after 20 years, more than 20 years, when his children are going and his sons are going to go to look to bring back their other brother Benjamin, he says, perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will somehow unite you to Yusuf as well. Like he's like, even though 20 years he hasn't seen his child, he doesn't know where his child is. He doesn't know what situation his child is in. But he does not lose hope, right? So, and but he's crying still, right? So sabr means that we have emotions, but we control our emotions in the sense, and we never lose hope, right? So that is sabr. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, wasabiru, wasabiru. And sabr, if in a group some people have sabr and some don't, then what happens? We've seen that in Uhud. Like just before these ayat came, Battle of Uhud has happened. Some people, some believers were steadfast in everything. Some lost sabr. Some could not hold themselves when they were on the top of the mountain, and they were supposed to be patient and wait, right? They were told to wait there, and they were like, no, but the battle is over. Like they were not disbelievers, they were believers. They were believers, but mistake happens, and we can lose sabr in certain situations. We want things. Human beings are created with haste, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us later in the Quran, human beings have this quality of haste. We want things quickly, we want things fast, but things will take its time sometimes, right? And when things are taking time, are we going to have that patience? But in a group, we are supposed to have just one person or a few people having sabr is not enough. When we are a jamaat, when we are a group, we need to also encourage each other for towards patience, right? So if some transgress, then everyone will be affected. It's not just when some people transgressed and came down from that mountain at the Battle of Uhud, it was not just them who got hurt. There were lot of sahabas, lot of believers were hurt, right, including the Prophet ﷺ. What was the mistake of the Prophet ﷺ? He had given the right commands to people, he had done everything correctly, yet he was hurt because of the mistake of some other people, right? So what is the lesson that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us through that case study of Battle of Uhud in this surah, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is that we have to encourage each other. When we are a group, when we are an ummah, when we are a community, what we need to do is, in some things, one of us would be better. Some things another person would be better or have more, let's say, more iman or more knowledge or more resources or more things. So we help each other. Even in sabr, we help each other. When somebody doesn't have enough money, one person has more money, we help each other. When some person has more knowledge, another doesn't have as much knowledge, we help each other by sharing that, right? Similarly, when one person has more sabr and they see another of the believer, another of their brother or sister who is being a bit impatient, who's not having, showing the things, and it's very human. We don't judge the other person. It's very human, right? Then we motivate each other. Don't worry, inshallah, Allah Ta'ala is in control. Allahul Mustaan. Allah is there. Don't worry. Allah Ta'ala is with us. Yes, things are not looking good, but inshallah, it will get better one day. We don't know whether it'll get better soon or later, but Allah Ta'ala is in control, right? So we encourage each other towards patience. That's sabiru, right? Also, sabiru means is that we try to increase ourselves in patience. Like we try to be more patient than the others, right? So we always, in terms of usually what happens is, in terms of dunya, like we always look up towards people who have more than us, right? Like for example, I have, let's say, one car. I would look at somebody who has like a Porsche or a Lamborghini or like many cars, and I was like, wow, if I had that. I have an apartment somewhere. I'm like, I look at somebody who has a villa has a private swimming pool and this and that. I'm like, I wish I had that. Somebody's children are doing so good at school. It's so easy for them. They're so smart. And I wish my children were that smart, right? We always look at somebody who has more than us in terms of dunya, and we aspire for that, right? What our deen teaches us is actually the opposite. In terms of dunya, always look at somebody who has less than you, and it will help you to be more grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? When we look in terms of dunya at, okay, if I am struggling this much with finances, maybe somebody is struggling this much more than me, right? I'm at a much better place, right? If like somebody is having trouble with their children or something else, like at least I have children. What if I never had any children, right? I look at somebody who doesn't have any children at all, and they've been like praying for children and everything. Alhamdulillah, right? So always in terms of dunya, look at something who's which is less than you, somebody who has a bit less than you, and be that will help us to be grateful for what we have. In terms of deen, we should always look up towards somebody who has more than us, right? So and by the outward appearances, obviously we cannot judge what is inside, but what looks like to us, right? So it's more than us and we try to aspire for that. And especially, like for example, those people who have passed away, we know about them. The Sahabas, who know, we know about them. They are our role models, the companions of the Prophet, all the prophets, alayhi salatu salam, right? And all the companions, radiallahu anhum ajma'in, right? We know about all of them, peace be upon all of them, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us He was pleased with them. So when we need to look at the examples of patience, of sabr, we look at somebody who has more than us, and so we try to increase ourselves. There's no limit. This is infinite field, right? There's no limit to, okay, now I have reached the ultimate, right? So we need to do more and more. Another thing is that we also, when we say sabiru, we are also saying that have together, have patience, meaning against also the enemy, right? Because persevere and be steadfast in truth in the struggle against those people who might, like who might be out to harm you. And there are people, there are situations, more and more things are getting clearer to us. Allah SWT opens our eyes, He shows us. There are people that we thought are our well-wishers who are all about human rights or all about equality and everything. But Allah SWT shows us the dirty faces too. Allah SWT shows us and sometimes it leads to armed confrontations, right? And in this, the context of this surah, there were armed confrontations happening between Muslims and their enemies, right? But what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us is final victory. Yes, there are a lot of battles that might happen and everything, but final victory clearly belongs to that party. Whenever there are two parties, final victory will belong to the party that excels each other in sabr, which excels in steadfastness and perseverance. More than the number of people, more than the arms and ammunition that you have, more than the fundings that you have, more than the, the worldly power and the resources that you have, victory in the battlefield will ultimately, not in the short term, but ultimately will depend on the moral character and the conduct of people. Because that will win hearts. The moral character, the truth will win people's hearts, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, so one is sabiru has two meanings, like we said. One is to excel in patience, to keep increasing in patience, looking at somebody who has more than us and to keep increasing in that. And the second one is to encourage each other. So it's a group thing. It's a community thing, right? So we're not just ourselves. So now we are more involved with other people. Okay? And rabitu. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, rabitu. Rabitu also comes from tying, but it has a slightly nuanced meaning, slightly different meaning. So it's important to understand from sabr, steadfast, constant. In English, if we translate, it all seems the same thing. Okay, what's the difference, right? So sabr, like we understood, is to control ourselves and everything. Rabitu is to also comes from tying, but tying, like for example, you tie a horse, like war horses. They are to tie them and to keep them ready, to secure the borders, right? And to also to tie our own nafs, right? To tie it up, to kind of like have it prepared. So spiritual preparation for anything, for any harm, any situation, any challenges that are coming, comes from musabira, from sabr, right? Like to put sabr, to create sabr, to indulge in sabr. That will prepare us individually and as an ummah spiritually. Sabr will prepare us spiritually, but material preparation will come through murabita, right? Which come from, so that is put in the word rabit, right? Ribat is to, like we said, to tie the horse and everything. So we need to tie up our own intentions, for example, right? When we are going to do some good work, we need to keep it tied, to keep it, to hold it on the place. Like, this is my intention. I will not let it waver from here and there. Right? Just because somebody praised me, I will not fish for praises the next time. I'm going to do the work that I'm supposed to do because of the work, because I believe in this work, right? And because I want to do this, right? This also means to be prepared in every way for resisting the forces that are opposed to Islam, right? So to make material preparation for jihad, to to provide power, to arrange for defense, to watch and guard, to be ready to fight and die if need be, right? And in a hadith, for example, ribat means to be ready for jihad and to guard, and that has been declared the best service in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So it is said that in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one day's duty of guarding, meaning one day of ribat, is better than this world and everything that is therein. So there's a lot of reward. And then when we see some believers, or we learn about some people from the past, or even some people from today, and we see like, why are they happy by sacrificing themselves? Why are they so happy when somebody is in the face of death and they're smiling, they're happy? Why are they happy? Because that we learn that when we learn about the rewards that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised these people, right? So, and just to read out a few of the rewards that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, right? So like there could be there are a lot of merits that have been mentioned and everything, but I'll just read out a few. So the Prophet ﷺ said, ribat for a day in the way of Allah is better than whatever there is in the whole world, like we said. And it is reported in Sahih of Muslim from Sayyidina Salman radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet ﷺ said, ribat for a day and night is better than fasting for a whole month and standing in prayers for the entire night. Should one die in that state, the daily reward of his act of staying in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will continue to reach him forever. His sustenance will keep coming from Allah, Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he will stay protected against the shaitan. And Abu Dawood reports from Fudala bin Ubaid that the Prophet ﷺ said, the roster of deeds credited to the person who dies ends with his death. So the roster, the hisab, the kitab of our good deeds, the book of our deeds, basically, which is credited to a person, it dies. When we die, then that book is closed because our actions are closed and everything, except in the case of a murabit, somebody who has ribat, right? One who stays in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, basically, and to protect the frontiers and to do that, like to engage in that, whose roster of good deeds goes on multiplying right through the day of judgment, and he remains covered against the fear of punishment on account of the scrutiny of deeds in his grave. So in his grave, he's protected, covered against the fear of punishment, right? So these narrations basically indicate that the act of staying in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning ribat, is superior even to sadaqah, the benefit of which keeps going and going. So basically it is even bigger, the reward is much bigger than sadaqah jariyah, right? So a charity, like we know that there are a few things that go on, right? When a person dies, the three things that we know that go on, one is the knowledge that we share with somebody, and whatever that knowledge in the future, whatever that knowledge benefits anybody in the past, this person says to somebody else, this person teaches somebody else, whatever. If we are imparting knowledge to somebody, beneficial knowledge to somebody, then that reward does not end when we die. The benefit will keep on, the reward, the deeds, good deeds will keep coming to our accounts even when we've passed away, as long as that knowledge is being passed and something's happening with that knowledge, right? And when we do some good deed, like when our children do some good deeds, that are also because we taught them to do certain good deeds. Let's say we taught our children to pray and we passed away, but they're still praying. Every time they pray, we get a reward as well, right? So children are also sadaqah jariyah, right? Or we make a masjid, or we have like a water, we get a well dug or a hand pump put somewhere and people are drinking from that, then goes on. So those are all sadaqah jariyah. But ribat is even superior to sadaqah jariyah, right? This is because the reward for the charity, the benefits will only last up to the time that people keep benefiting from it, like the house, the land, the library, the children, whatever. Once the benefits stop reaching people, then the reward also stops, right? But the reward of one person who stayed in vigilant in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who was guarding for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that reward is not going to stop until the day of judgment, right? That reward will not stop until the day of judgment, right? So the reward of ribat fi sabilillah, staying in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will keep continuing, right? So one who dies in a state of ribat in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the reward of whatever good he used to do in this mortal life will continue, and so will his sustenance, and he will stay protected against shaitan, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise him on the day of judgment free from fear. On the day of judgment, when everybody will be fearful, this person will have no fear on that day. No fear at all on that day, right? So, and Sayyidina Ubay bin Ka'b radiallahu anhu narrates that the Prophet, Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, the reward for sincerely guarding the weak border area of Muslims for one day, the reward for sincerely guarding the weak border area of Muslims for one day, other than those of Ramadan, is superior to the reward of continuous fasting and nightly worship for 100 years. Right? Ribat for one day in Ramadan is superior to fasting and nightly worship for 1,000 years. Then he said, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends him back to his family in good health, no sin will be recorded in his name for 1,000 years, while good deeds will continue to be entered in his roster, and the reward for his act for having stayed at the border to defend Islamic frontiers will keep coming to him until the day of judgment. Right? So the kind of rewards that are mentioned for Rabat is is like something that that a Muslim looks up to, right? Because what does all these rewards mean? All these rewards mean, and why are we looking for all these rewards, right? Let's say I want to buy a prime property somewhere next to the beach or next to, and there's no example for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but examples help us to understand. I want to buy a really amazing, I want to live in a house next to the, let's say, the prime minister, and it's also the prime property or something and everything. I want to live next to the White House. Okay. And I want to just feel that power and everything. And I'm just like so close to it. And I'm just like, look up to everything. And then I just want to live there. And I want to be so close there. And then I want to buy that prime property. Now, to get to it, there are steps. There are steps, and I have to collect the money, I have to save the money, I have to do this, I have to buy that and everything. So every penny counts, right? Similarly, when we want to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the akhirah. I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with me. How do I get there? Now there are steps to it. Yes, I want it. And yes, I ask Allah for it. But now I have to also start working towards it. I have to show that, Ya Allah, I am working towards it. I want to be with you. But it's not just an empty wish. I'm ready to put in effort for it, right? So every reward, when and especially the things that multiply the rewards, right? Those are the things that a believer kind of like just looks up. Okay, what is it? I want to do it. I want to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So to buy that, to get that place in Jannah, to be in the highest place of Jannah, and the highest place of Jannah is not just for the sake of pleasures of Jannah. It's also the highest level of Jannah means the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So when I want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I need to do all, I need all these rewards. And I make an effort. I ask Allah and make an effort. Whether something changes or doesn't change, it's immaterial. The thing in our deen is we try our best, we make an effort, and we want something, right? So ribat, what all does ribat include? One is the intention. One is to be prepared for, to make material preparation for jihad, like to have financial, to get the skill sets, to kind of find out what is the wise things to do in different situations, to do whatever needs to be done to help. And each person has a different capacity and different things, whatever we can do. Also, ribat would mean to have good relationships with each other, right? To try our best to reduce arguments, to try our, yes, there are differences of opinion sometimes, but to try our best to not let that get into the argument, but rather focus on things which are common. Focus on the common ground. Have good relationships. Have good behavior with people, right? And people that are generally connected to each other. Families which are more connected to each other. What happens is, even if let's say a husband and wife are having a little bit of a fallout or an argument with each other, what an extended family would do it if they're very well connected is they will kind of like explain to each other, you know what, it's okay, you can look past certain things, and come on, you can, they will try to like reconcile between them. A good parent, what they would do is when the siblings or when the children are fighting, they will try to like make peace between them. Okay, you know what, no, let's just put this toy away, nobody's having this now. Okay, you're both fighting about this. When you learn to be good with each other, then you'll do that, right? So the parent would want them to be be have a good relationships with each other and everything. And when we have good relationships as an ummah with each other, when we look after each other as a family, as a community, when we look after each other, what happens is then we will be tied up together. Like it's always difficult to break up something like we know of the story of in our childhood, a lot of people would have learned the story that a father gave a bunch of sticks to the children and told them to break it, and none of them could break it. But one child, what he did was he had this bunch of sticks, he separated those sticks, and then he broke each one, right? And the father said, that's what I wanted to teach you guys. That if you stay together, nobody will be able to break you. But if you separate, right, then a lone sheep isn't the wolf always attacks the lone sheep, right? So in our Deen community is very much so Rabitu, we tie together, we stay together, we try to look past our own differences and we stay together, right? And self-control comes in that too. Guarding Muslim kingdom's frontiers comes against that too, right? Keeping ourselves prepared against the enemy is comes under ribat too. And ribat also comes under also it includes things like in terms of worship, right? So ribat is used in two senses in Quran and Hadith. One is to secure Islamic frontiers, and that will include everything, right? All of us staying together, preparing ourselves financially, materially, skills-wise for defense, all those things. And the second sense it is used is to be observant of and bound, to be so observant of and bound by making salah, especially with Jama'ah for men, that one starts looking forward to the next salah after performing one salah. So somebody is, let's say, used to praying in Jamaat in a masjid. There you go and pray. Let's say a man goes and prays in the Jamaat every or all the five salah, right? Then what happens is one salah is done, they will look forward to the next one. Ribat would also mean to do wudu when it is hard to do wudu, when it's really cold and you don't feel like it and you make yourself do wudu. Okay, fine, right? Ribat is also to be alert against shaitan's attack. Okay, like, okay, why am I feeling like this? Why am I acting like this? Is not right. I shouldn't be doing this, right? And to excel, to rush towards doing something for the sake of deen, right? To populate the masajid, that is also ribat. That will also come under ribat, right? Right. So a person doing repeatedly, if a person is doing some good repeatedly, what happens is if they don't tie themselves to it, right? Let's say one time there's like, okay, you know what, I'm just like so lazy to do wudu, like, okay, this is so cold, I don't feel like it. What will happen is if you don't do wudu, they won't be praying, right? They won't pray their salah if they haven't done wudu. And if they miss one salah, what will happen? The next salah will feel even more hard, right? The next salah will feel even more hard. So tying ourselves, especially when we don't feel like it, especially when we are not feeling it, when we're not getting that vibe, So and doing that still to tie ourselves. No, I am going to do this. That will make things easier for us. That will have a constancy to whatever we are doing, right? So especially like for example, a masjid is really far from somebody. If it is really near, people go. But when it's far, then a person can be lazy. You know what? It's too far. Like, let me just pray at home only. Right? And Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not made it mandatory for women to pray in the masjid. Right? So He has given us this choice. If we want to go, we can go. If we have a masjid which has facilities and a separate place for women, and it is like it is safe and it is sound for us to go and everything, and it is convenient for us, then we go. Otherwise, our places, we have our homes, right? But for men, it is recommended to go whenever they can. Like if they are healthy, if they are and it is convenient and they can go, then they should go. And by convenient, I don't mean that it's far thing, but meaning they're healthy enough to go and they can go by themselves and everything. They don't have to trouble anybody else. They can go and everything, then they should, right? So it's like a circle. Anything that we engage in, one good that we do, the next one becomes easier, right? And the Prophet ﷺ told us that in ahead of you, the days of sabr are coming. So be prepared. Meaning, like he told us to the effect that towards the end of times, what will happen is Iman will become so hard. It will be almost like you're holding a burning coal in your hand. To stay on Iman will become so hard, like you're holding burning coal in your hand. It will be painful. It will hurt. Like people will say nasty things to you. People will try to hurt you just because you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No other reason, right? So, but to stay constant, tie yourself up and everything. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, wattaqullah, and have the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And taqwa, again, like we learned, taqwa also has levels, right? This word has been repeated several times so far already. And we will see taqwa repeated many times in the Quran again and again, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He loves the muttaqeen, right? So the different levels of taqwa, the least level of taqwa is just to do the fard acts and to protect ourselves from big sins, right? And then the level keeps increasing, right? Then the level keeps increasing, right? So today, if we look at today's world, in everything, we not just religion, but in everything, we see a lot of besabri, a lot of like impatience, right? And but what we have to do, Allah SWT says, no, but you cannot be like everybody else. You are not like everybody else. You are believers. You cannot be like anybody else. You are believers. So you people, you the believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Muslimin, right? Oh dear Muslims, you are supposed to be steadfast, even if the whole world is not. But you are. You are supposed to have patience, and you are supposed to have sabr and ribat and taqwa, right? So even if your relatives trouble you, even if your relationships trouble you, you have to maintain the relationship, right? As long as you are in a relationship, you have to maintain that. You have to do your best to maintain that relationship. It's as simple as that, right? Blood relationships we cannot go against, right? We cannot break those relationships. Yes, there's a relationship of marriage which can happen and which a person can get out of also. But if we are in the marriage, then we have to take care of them. We have to do what is the best that we can do, right? And there are things that like there are compromises that we can do depending on different situations and everything. But we do our best. Each person's best would be different depending on their own situation, right? And regarding this ayah, it is said that it is reported on the authority of Abu Salam ibn Abdurrahman that he said, "O nephew, do you know regarding what this verse was revealed?" Meaning, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sabiru wa sabiru wa rabitu wattaqullaha la'allakum tuflihun. Right? And he said, like basically, to oh you who believe, endure and be more patient and station your troops where the enemy may attack you, and fear Allah so that you may be successful. He said no. And then he replied that truly, O nephew, there were no fortifications at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There were no forts or everything, but we used to stand behind the worshippers and wait for them to pray. Meaning what? That if there's a danger of an enemy attacking, some people would pray and others would stand guard behind them so that they could pray. Right? At the time of war, when there is a life-threatening situation, we do not miss our salah. We take turns to pray our salah so that one group can guard while the other group prays, and then they switch. The other people stand guard and the other people pray. There is no justification in our deen to ever miss our salah, right? And that displays all the qualities: sabr and ribat and taqwa. If somebody doesn't have sabr and ribat and taqwa, if a group doesn't have sabr and ribat and taqwa, then they will not be able to do this. They will only worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if they have taqwa in that situation. There's a fear of enemy, but my fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more than the fear of enemy. So I'm going to go pray first. There is sabr. I'm going to have sabr on this, that yes, I could be stand up and go fight and everything and win the battle right now, but no, I have to go pray my salah. I have to have sabr. I have to do that. And ribat, everybody's together taking care of each other, right? So in the beginning of Surah Baqarah, we learned ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, that this book is a guidance for those who have taqwa. There is no doubt in this book, the Quran, and this is a guidance for those who have taqwa. Only those, this book is guidance, but who will receive guidance? This guidance will only be received by people who have taqwa. Right? Like today we were talking about that there are two things when we are teaching the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we are sharing the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One is the tongue, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala untie the knot from the tongue of the speaker, the one who's speaking. But also may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepare the heart of the listener to receive what is being taught, because the sound can reach the ears, but the journey from the ear, the sound and the information can reach the ear, but the journey from the ear to the heart, that will only happen when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says kun, right? And the hidayah will only reach a person when they have some taqwa. And that level of taqwa will keep increasing with the Quran. This Quran will help us to increase in the taqwa as well, right? So Surah Baqarah started with taqwa, and now we are ending Surah Al Imran with taqwa. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sabiru wa sabiru wa rabitu wattaqullah la'allakum tuflihun. So this shows that the commands or injunctions, meaning the authoritative orders or the warnings and the directions that have been given in these two surah, if we follow them, if we take care of them, then that is taqwa. That will help us become people of taqwa, right? And muttaqi are those people who develop these qualities in themselves, these qualities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want. right? So taqwa means to sincerely and actively safeguard all the laws and commandments prescribed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and bearing in mind the terrible consequences of violating them. So taqwa means somebody asked Umar radiallahu anhu, what is taqwa? And he said that if you have a really precious garment and you have a very expensive precious garment and you're walking on a narrow path and there are thorns on both sides, then how will you walk? You'll squeeze and turn and everything to kind of protect your cloth, right? That is taqwa. When we have iman, we understand our iman is so precious. This is iman. This is iman has not come cheap, Ya Rab. Ya Rab, every single day, I want to this. I understand that this iman is more precious than any other thing I have. I might have diamonds and jewelry and mansions of homes and cars and even private airplanes or this and that. I might have billions. I might be a multi-billionaire. I might be the richest person on this earth. Yet, yet the iman is more precious than that. And when I understand that I have something so precious, I want to protect it. I want to protect it, and I know there are thieves all around. I know Shaitan is standing on every little turn, wanting to snatch it away from me, and I want to protect it. And I want to protect it so much because I'm fearful of the punishment of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and that's why I run towards Allah Subhanahu wa Taala because see, taqwa means fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way that I I fear his punishment and I want his love so much that anytime anything that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want to do it quickly. And anytime I find out that something is not pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want to get out of it quickly. Right? If I am first, I want to avoid it. And if I am in this situation, I want to get out of it. Right? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to understand that. And so four instructions in this, if we look at the four instructions that are in this surah, they will cover all situations of our life. So sabr, we need it in every situation of our life. Sabiru, we need to be a bit more patient than others, especially when we are fighting disbelievers or the propagandas or the Islamophobia or things like that. Rabitu, when an armed conflict is likely and there is a danger that fighting can happen anytime, right? And observe taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the essence of everything that a believer does. And on taqwa depends the acceptance of our deeds. Whatever we do, if we do it with taqwa, then it is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're doing for the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we do all of these, and which have been, Surah Asr also tells the same thing, right? Innal asr, wal asr, innal insana lafi khusr. Right? Every by the time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears, by the time every single human being is in loss except those who have iman. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat, and who do good deeds, wa tasaw bil haqqi wa tasaw bis sabr, and who guide towards the truth and guide with patience. Right? So sabr is important, right? And if we have all of that, then we will have la'allakum tuflihun. Then you'll have falah. And like we said, falah is the kind of success that a farmer has. A farmer will do a lot of digging first. There'll be a lot of digging and tilling the land and everything. And what is the land of a believer? Their heart. There'll be a lot of digging. There'll be a lot of reflection. There's a lot of thinking. There's a lot of pondering. There's a lot of going over the past, present, future. Okay, why this? Why that? And my Rabb, and is there a God? And how is God helping me in every situation of my life? And what is happening here, there? There'll be a lot of deeper, sometimes very uncomfortable conversations, right? Then a farmer does is they plant the seeds. They plant the seeds, right? And then they do a lot of weeding, right? A believer has to always, a believer's heart is like a soil. The weeds will come automatically, even if we don't, we like, where did this come from? Why did I start being jealous of all of a sudden? I'm not a jealous person. Or why did I start being angry so much? Why am I shouting so much? Right? The things will come. Why am I fearing things so much? I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why am I so afraid? What am I so afraid of? Right? So different things will keep coming, right? Why is this stressing me so much? Like, yes, I understand a little bit of stretch, but why is it stretching me so much? So all these things will come in a heart, but a believer will weed them out, just like a farmer takes the weeds out, right? And then he waters, and the water, the Quran, the revelation, some that will give life, the seed, the iman, the seed of the iman that is there in our hearts. When we plant that seed and we water it with the Quran, then what will happen? That's when success will happen. That's when, and it will take time. It will not happen in one day. Even with iman, we have to be patient, right? We have to be patient. It will take steps. one by one. The Quran is not just didn't just come once, it comes step by step. Right? We learn one ayat, then we learn the next one, then we learn the next one, then we learn the next one. Right? So Quran will help us do all of that, and then لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ, so that you may be successful. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those people who are successful with Him, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No matter what the world calls us, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us truly successful in His side. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who believe, who have sabr, who have ribat, who have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala united us as sisters in Islam in this world, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reunite us as sisters in Islam on the day of judgment under the shade of His throne, when there will be no shade except His, and then once again in Jannatul Firdaus. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those people that He is pleased with, that who stay firm on His path. Any goodness that comes from today's talk is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, because He is the owner of all goodness. Any mistakes are from myself. I'm a human being and open to mistakes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still accept our coming together and make this a means of increasing iman for all of us and for anybody who listens to it anytime in the future. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم سبحانك اللهم أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.